Chant, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Core Chant did all the damage, but yeah. Generally 2 was enough. But yeah, at large mana cost, this card's insane.
Yeah.
The problem is it's a combat trick that costs like 6+ mana.
Yeah, so it's a little awkward to just like pass with all your mana up.
Right. Or like the other thing you can do is if they're in the mood for blocking, if you just send all your guys,
Yeah.
they block some of them. It's like, okay, you take an extra 5 and none of my creatures die.
Right.
Or like kill your one guy I can't, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Can't
it's
kill in combat.
just the ultimate race winner. Late and early, it's a 2-for-1.
Just a rules thing. It's often more than a 2-for-1. Because if you're like trying to trade,
Yeah, like if
say that you attack with like 3 2/2s, they block with 3 2/2s. It's way more than a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the thing that holds this card back in this set a lot, there's a lot of cards with big toughnesses, low powers. So it's often restricted to a 2-for-1. If there were a bunch of like 3/1s,
Right, then it'd just be insane.
then it would be a lot better.
Yeah, but I don't think it needs to be much better. It seems really awesome.
Yeah, it's very, very good and limited. I don't think it has constructed applications just because it's so bad at low mana.
Yeah. Well, it's good that white gets a fireball. Because like black has Mind Shatter, and blue gets Mind Spring, and green gets Genesis Wave, and then red has Fireball, and white really doesn't have an effect like that.
Well, they're getting 2.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Emancipation Angel.
Yeah. This card is the rate is, at one point, this rate was insane.
Yeah.
3/3 flyer for 3.
Yeah.
It just like needs like a huge drawback.
Yeah.
Like Silver Drake and Invasion was a multicolored. It was blue and white, and required you to return a blue or white creature. And this one's just any permanent, and it's only one color.
And it's still like
and still, but like
contextually,
is,
it's not as good.
The 3/3 flyer has become a lot less impressive.
Yeah.
Like Silver Drake ruled the skies.
Yeah.
In IPA, whereas this card is just like, all right, random value creature, like...
Yeah, like I'm going to have to take 2 or 3 hits before I can outclass this. Instead of, I'm probably going to beat you with this card alone.
Right. 0 construct applications because it's so, like, so small with a drawback. Like, cards with drawbacks just aren't good and constructed anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
And then in limited, this is...
There's like ways to this
is pretty good in limited.
Yeah, and there's like ways to take advantage of it, right? Like I know there's the green enchantment, land enchantment that like cantrips when it comes into play.
There's that. There's soulbound creatures you can re-soulbound.
Sure. You can unpacify something.
Right. I mean, there's a ton of different things. You can untap something.
Yeah.
If you can recast it later on. I think this card's very playable.
Yeah, it's definitely good.
You guys do the blue, when you guys did blue, the 3/4 that you have to pay for every turn.
Yeah.
That card is insane in limited.
Yeah, it seems really good.
And I think this card is of a similar vein.
Sure.
Where it's a very tangible drawback, but getting a sizable creature.
Yeah, the rate is like good enough that
it's better than the drawback. And I like cards. I like Magic when there are drawbacks on cards.
Yeah, me too. And especially when there are drawbacks that you can manipulate. Like either turn them into an advantageous ability, or even like sculpt the game in a way that the like damage of the drawback is minimized.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
like being able to mitigate drawbacks on cards.
Yeah, exactly. And this thing seems definitely like something you can manipulate.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a really cool card.
This next one is one of the cards that scares people a lot about miracles.
Yeah. This is the white fireball.
Yeah. Yeah. it's funny, right? Because when you look at it, it's like absurdly costed. But let's pretend it's not a miracle. Okay. 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer. That's like pretty par. Probably pretty good.
I mean, it's bad and constructed.
Yeah, not playable and constructed, but like par and limited.
Yeah, I mean it's mythic, so like, I don't like talking about the applications of mythics and limited.
Sure.
Because you probably play with or against any given mythic and limited, like 2 to 3 times ever.
I mean, I draft a lot more than that.
All right. Yeah, I mean,
it's just.
I will be surprised. Like my average, like I don't draft a ton. My average rate of exposure to any given mythic is probably like 0.5 per mythic.
Yeah, I
mean, like I just don't bother.
That's understandable. It's just like it in limited is where it's like Sting is going to be at the highest.
Yeah.
I guess so. That's like what I wanted to talk about first. So it's like 5 mana 4/4 or 6 mana for 2 4/4s, and then you're probably not getting to 9. So
in this format, you absolutely can get to 9.
Okay, so maybe you get to 9.
There are a lot of defensive cards, and also I could see waiting to get 9 as well.
And like at 9, you probably just win.
You guys
right?
Do that blue. In your blue review, there's a 4 mana card that mills them.
The soulbond one?
Land you have?
Oh,
no.
Yeah. I remember that one.
Okay, so I had 3 of those in my pool.
Did you?
I sighted them in on a regular basis.
Did it work?
It worked 1 game. Like
the other games you like won despite of them.
Yeah, like if you draw 2 of them, it's often game in these like drag out decks.
Sure.
Maybe it was just like the nature of sealed deck. Maybe draft's a different animal.
Yeah, I'm sure it's much faster.
But in sealed deck, there are definitely these like, but there's so many like angelic wall type cards.
Sure, especially in
there's
white.
So many defensive cards in white.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot of like card drawing, which you kind of need to get to 9 mana. But I could see plenty of scenarios where 2 4/4s isn't enough, so you wait till you get 9 mana.
Yeah. And then so it's like pretty normal rates.
It's very strong.
Yeah. It's,
as a hard cast card.
Right. It's just like a good card. And then at Miracle, it's just comically undercosted.
Yeah.
At every step, increasingly.
Right. It's just it's so unfair if you Miracle this card.
Yeah, and
like the thing is about miracles is that when you get an undercost like Banishing Stroke or Thunderous Wrath, when you get an undercosted removal spell, people are used to like 2 kill you die.
Right.
That like 1 mana unconditionally kill anything is not that unreasonable.
Right. It's not as big of a stretch.
Right. It's obviously a good rate and stuff like that, but it's not that big of a beating.
Right.
This card, on the other hand,
yeah,
this card and Consuming Bonfire are the 2 I think.
Yeah, this one goes from 9 mana to 5 mana to go into like probably unbeatable mode.
Right.
That's like a huge rate difference from 1 to 2,
the
maybe 3.
Between 5 and 9 is like 4 times.
Yeah, it's insane.
9 mana is like 4 times what 5 mana is.
Yeah, and that I can understand this. I can foresee this card creating a lot of like really frustrating games.
Not a lot. Thank God it's a mythic.
Yeah, obviously this card has to be a mythic, but for constructed, is this?
See, that's what I don't know. Like, they didn't put any miracle support in the set. Really, there's like the Red Looter is pretty much the only card in this set that works well with miracles.
Right.
Basically, I see it in a Faithless Looting type of deck where if you draw it, you're gonna have to discard it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you get, scrappy and make a 4/4 with this, but Like you're getting a bad card if you have to cast this at any point.
Yeah,
But
and
then like you're playing a card for its miracle cost at that point,
right.
and then like I'm not sure if you can play a card just for its miracle.
Yeah, especially one that's like, I mean, how are you gonna draw cards on their turn that isn't gonna like cost you too much mana?
Right, you can like lighthouse or whatever.
Right, but then you're like down 4 mana, so you're only making
Right,
like
so
one
this
angel.
this and that's 7 mana even.
Yeah, and I mean, then there's like think twice, and you can like ponder, put it as the bottom card, and then go to their turn and on the next turn and think twice and angel it. But then it's like you're probably getting 16 damage for like all this setup that if they cast Lingering Souls or something,
Right.
then you're like not even winning the game. And at the same time, when like evaluating this card, you have to think that White Sun Zenith doesn't even really see play.
Right, exactly. White Sun Zenith is a lot of this card. Like you get a lot of this card in White Sun Zenith.
Yeah, and it's
like for every angel you can make two cats for the cost
at instant speed instead of sorcery.
At instant speed, yes, which is huge in like a lot of like super slow decks.
Yeah.
And then so you're just miracling it, and any setup you do with the miracle
is gonna dig into your profit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see constructing with this.
I will say that nearly everybody else thinks this is like one of the 5 best cards in the set.
I'm pretty sure they're wrong in the dark.
Yeah, I just don't see it.
Yeah, we're so much smarter than everyone else.
Yeah, of course. How could we possibly be wrong?
Those guys are idiots. Farborg Explorer. Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm all for.
It's another defensive card.
2 3s for 3.
Yeah.
I also really like whatchamacallit. Like what's the red gray ogre with Mountain Walk?
Okay.
Goblin, whatever.
Goblin Mountaineer.
Yeah, that's like the 1/1 for 1. But you know what I mean. Just like the generic 2/2 Mountain Walkers or 2/2 Land Walkers. I like in Limited because they keep games from getting really dry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if this was just vanilla or whatever, like they clearly want a vanilla card, and just put something random on it.
Right, to actually like make the gameplay like spicy in some way.
Yeah.
And it's not like a 2-power unblockable for 3 is going to be unbeatable for a black deck, especially when it walks on mountains or swamps, like the colors that are going to be able to remove it.
Yeah.
It's
like,
just
you
like
can't really put like Planeswalk, like Island Walk's fine. Like Forest Walk is just a huge beating.
Yeah, Forest Walk is a huge beating. But like I definitely like Swamp Walk and Mountain Walk specifically, and Island Walk is okay too. Just for the fact that they actually create a tension where A, they have to do something, and B, if they have to use a removal spell, you can not hate them, but like sort of give them a Sophie's Choice, like they actually put them to a test rather than just being like, oh well, we're both playing black-green, I played a 5/5 for 5, and now you have to kill it.
I also like cards that their value varies depending on what kind of game you're playing.
Yes. Well, that goes back to the
specifically in this case.
That goes back to the Thraben Sensory thing too, right? Like, sometimes it has value, sometimes it doesn't. But like when you're able to take advantage of that value, and when you know when it's worth it to like try to, it's like these small edges that are really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't even care that you have very little control over when this guy is good and when this guy is not. I just like it having different values in different games.
Yeah. Yep. Gold Knight Commander. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you get +1/+1 until end of turn.
It's obviously a limited card.
Yeah, so if they're is a human swarm white deck. This is where it's at. I feel like from what I've seen so far, I mean, we're only like halfway through the white, even though we've been talking for like an hour. But
Yeah.
from what I've seen so far, I feel like it's defensive guys and angels.
Yes. This guy does not. This guy did not fit in my sealed deck.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
And I had a pretty good sealed. I mean, pretty representative sealed deck. There, yeah, we haven't come a card. We've come across like one card where it's good, and it's been this Commander's Authority card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there aren't a lot of like token type cards, or just like even like make a guy.
Right. I feel like this is a card that definitely goes into the red deck more than a white deck.
Yes, that's true. Red has a significant amount of like, yeah, random creatures.
Yeah, like the
that this card would make good.
There's like a
Yeah, this is more of a red card than a white card, which is totally strange to me.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is what white should be doing, right? Like.
Right, this is a totally white thing to do, and then this is more of a red card.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me.
Well, it has that like.
Make 3/1/1s.
Yeah, the waylay, and then it has like the 2/1 for 3 that makes a guy not block,
right.
And the thing that gets like +1/+0 and trample for every guy that comes into play.
Right.
So it definitely seems like suited for that deck.
Yeah, the problem is there's not very many white cards that are suited for that deck, which is unfortunate.
Sure. Gold Knight Redeemer. Yeah, sure. Sweet Angel.
Yeah, standard finisher. These guys are a dime a dozen, basically.
Yep, I like that he digs you out of a hole and beats ass and does what he does.
This is the type of card that, like, if you hit this guy on turn 6, you probably get to continue to play Magic.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna cast this and then die very often.
Right.
Especially when, like, you just have all these like defensive cards, like this 2/3, and then the wall or whatever, yeah. Bunch of defangs and whatnot. This guy generally will gain you a non-zero amount of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have a blocker. You have an air elemental.
Yep, seems solid. Herald of War.
Yeah, you get an air elemental. Air elemental is far more fair at 6 mana.
Yeah.
So then, like, you want to get something. You want to get some payoff.
Right.
And getting an extra 4 life is a good enough payoff.
It's like not backbreaking, but it makes it worth it to like balance the card.
But even then, every once in a while, it is backbreaking, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's definitely something you can cultivate. It's not just like.
Yes, this is something you can build towards. This is something you can cloud shift.
Ooh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Herald of War, another big angel.
Yep.
Yeah, he's sweet.
Yeah, I mean, good and limited, terrible and constructed. I hate rares like this. Honestly. Yeah. Like there's a big gap of there's a lot of room for cards. This cannot possibly be uncommon.
Right.
So it doesn't affect limited games all that often. However, it's only made for limited. It's made to be a limited bomb.
Well, it's made to be for little kids in their angel human decks.
Right. Like, I understand, like, there's a whole range, like, just cards of this power level kind of frustrate me. I hate, like, too good for limited, too weak for constructed.
Right.
I hate cards that are designed with that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't get too bent up over it. Like, they're not going away.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
an
understandable.
Stop making these cards. It doesn't even have like niche.
Yeah.
Constructed applications.
Yeah. Well, it's an understandable frustration to have, but yeah, like you said, it's not going to change.
Away. It's not like a huge deal for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Holy Justiciar.
In addition to a very unpronounceable name.
Yeah. Well, it's Cool.
It's a tapper with a very bad rate. Like I would hate to play this card against a non-zombie deck.
Right.
I need to be killing a creature, not tapping it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean your
That
rate
being said, like
your rate is either insane or horrible.
right. That being said, like the Explorer, the 2/3 Swamp Walker.
Yeah.
I like cards like that are main deckable that you side out when they're bad.
Right.
Because this card, like the 2/3, is not bad when they don't have swamps, but if you can, you want to side him out.
Right.
Whereas this card, you start in your sideboard and bring in. Like I'd have a very difficult time main decking this.
Sure. Yeah, I mean I'd probably
Basically,
still main deck it because tappers are awesome, but
it's a really hard time, man. It's just like so expensive.
yeah, it is, but
It just has like you're paying 2 mana for the ability. Basically, if it was a vanilla creature, it would cost 2 mana.
yeah.
And then you're overpaying another 2 mana for if that creature is a zombie, exile it.
Yeah.
So like if you're not getting a zombie, you're overpaying like 4 mana.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like all contextual, right? Like obviously this compared, like if you're putting it in the context of Magic's history or like another format, then yeah, obviously you're overpaying. But like there aren't really tappers anymore, and
there should be, but
there's like.
I mean, there are some tappers. There's like Gideon's Lawkeeper, Blinding Soul Eater, or Blinding whatever Soul Eater, I think it is, and Phyrexia.
I don't know.
They just don't do it. There's just not one in every set.
Yeah, and they're like blue and uncommon.
Right.
And like if white decks are playing out like you say, then I don't see it being.
Yeah, like maybe this card's good if every game is a drag out game.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Like we'll see. It's like super contextual, but like, it's an interesting card.
To make this one, start this one in the sideboard.
It's an interesting card because of the decisions it forces you to make in deck building and drafting.
Right.
Leap of Faith.
Vomit.
Yeah, pretty bad combat trick.
I would not play this card at 1 mana.
Yeah, I don't.
I hate. Yeah, like.
I don't get it.
Other than something. Yeah. Next.
Midnight Duelist. Not even a sideboard card.
Nope.
Midvast Protector. Red a field target creature you control. Whatever.
Yeah, this card's interesting. You're paying for the ability. The mana, like they're telling you, like this ability is basically worth like 1.5 mana.
Right. And
I'm not sure that it is.
Yeah.
It's just a one-time effect.
There's not a lot of
It'll be worth some amount of damage, basically. That's
right. There's like not enough pacifisms to make it worthwhile that way.
Right. It's target creature you control. If you could get other people's auras,
yeah, that would be sweet.
I'd be a little happier about it.
I guess just it's almost strictly a blink target at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
Like, I can see some of my really bad decks playing this guy.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep.
It's just like another card with toughness more than its power.
Yeah. Well, Sam Black was saying things with 3 toughness or 2 power and first strike are like unbeatable from a red perspective.
Yes, that's very true. And there's a lot of that.
Yeah, so 2/3s are pretty sweet.
Mhm.
Moonlight Geist.
This card's pretty exciting to me.
Well, it's just like
you're getting a flyer.
Yeah, it's just like a Duskwing Bat or whatever, right? And then like super late game, it'll lock down a 6/6 or something.
Mhm. Without trample, but yeah.
Sure. I mean, you're not cutting it, right? But like it's not amazing. It just does what it does.
It's solid role player. It's also one of the few offensive cards in white. Everything else is very defensive.
Yeah, something that can actually attack.
It's also a not like. So it probably won't go in as many decks as I think it will, or like you won't draft it, you won't prioritize it when your deck has synergy.
Right.
Because it's neither a human nor an angel.
Right.
I think, but like, I see this as more of a blue card.
Yeah. It definitely has its applications. It's just, it's not an exciting card by any means. It's just like an interesting one.
Yeah, I like the card to exist.
Yeah, same. Grizzly Bear that can gain first strike. Sweet. Right.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
You're paying for the Grizzly Bear.
Yep.
Like, and it doesn't matter how expensive the ability is.
Yeah, it's just gravy.
Right. Like it would be like a very high pick if the first strike costs you like 1 mana.
Yeah.
Even 2 mana.
Well, it's
so like if at 3 mana you just take it wherever you take a Grizzly Bear.
It's like the worst Dark Thicket Wolf, right? Because it's like it's a 2-drop with this like weird blocking / attacking deterrent if you have 3 mana.
Yes.
Near Heath Pilgrim, Piker, Soulbond, Lifelink. Okay, these guys, these like cheap guys with Soulbond, I think are awesome.
Yeah, this guy is actually insane.
Like there's the red one gives fire breathing.
Yeah, the red one's pretty good.
The blue one gives flying.
The problem with the blue one is like there's not a lot of other creatures.
Sure.
Like, you'll have to soulbond it with a creature in another color.
There's
like, for example, this one.
Right. Then what's
like when you can get 2 soulbond creatures that soulbond each other, it's often really good.
Yeah. There's like a green one that gives death touch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. These cards are sweet. I like them. It's reminds me of and the red one. There's another red one that gives haste too.
Yeah.
I think these cards are extra sweet because, like I visualize these games where you're just like on equal footing, right? And you're just sending into their guy, and they have to trade with their 2/2 for your 2/2 because you.
Well, you can't race this guy.
Right, because they can't race your 2/2 with lifelink, and if they attack, you get to attack with your 2/1 or whatever. So they trade, and then you like play your hill giant and give it lifelink, and they're like, all right, play my hill giant. You're like attack, and they're like, well, I can't race it, so I'll trade. And you're just like slightly profiting every time.
Right. There's a lot of that where you can. Soulbound absolutely wants you to trade off your guys.
Yeah.
And that's.
Which is kind of tragic if you think about it.
Right. Well, white is not very good at trading off its guys.
Huh.
It very much chumps bigger creatures or like bounces. Like there's the whole 2/3 thing. A lot of these guys are like 2/3 and stuff. A lot of defensive stuff. So it's hard to re-soulbound in white. It's a lot easier in green and red.
Right.
Like soulbound is much better in red.
Yeah, because red is super trade happy.
Right. Whereas white is very much of a board accumulation deck.
Sure.
And soulbound is a very much a trade mechanic.
Yeah. That's definitely an astute observation. The thing that makes this interesting is because like your late game is angels, that like even if you can't trade for a tiny profit every turn, like in my magical universe,
right?
It's like you can still get in with your 2/3 or whatever, and then at some point like block with it or throw it away and play some angel and make it a Baneslayer. And like they have to kill the angel or they're gonna lose, and they kill the angel and then they play your other angel.
Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, this card, even though it's not as good in a white deck, it's still like very first pickable, one of the best cards you can play on turn 2.
Yeah.
Like This card is excellent.
It's also
I've
like
even heard some rumblings of like some block constructed application, just because like they need 2-drops.
yeah, sure.
Not all white decks are 2-drop happy, but I don't see that. There's too many loyal Cathars and Talias and
yeah, the this in particular is going to be a cool test of when not to soul bond. Because things like the fire breathing one, you always want to soul bond that thing because you're gonna trade it away next turn.
Yeah, you're gonna send it in. Yeah.
Yeah, but this one is gonna be like cool. Like you play this, and they play like they don't have a 2-drop.
Mhm. Yeah. What happens if you play like some like 2/3 on?
Yeah. Do you play?
Do you soul bond
Do you
them?
soul bond to gain the 2 life from this 2/1, and then like if they play a 2/3, then
you're not gaining more life.
You're like attacking into a 2/3 and for 2 life, and then he attacks back with his 2/3, and then like plays a 3/3, and then all of a sudden you're like not doing anything.
Right.
That's gonna be really cool to see like action. Like it's easy to like theorize, but I'm interested in seeing like the different game states and the different hands that I could potentially have that would like swing that decision in one way or another.
Pretty sure, like, if you play a 2/3 on turn 3, you're going to soulbound them.
Yeah.
Just because the game's going to go on long enough, although it might be a little awkward for a while. But soulbound definitely does bring up a lot of interesting mechanics. It sucks, just like the flip cards, it's really frustrating to play mechanically.
Yeah.
Like, in real life.
Yeah.
To, like, hey, like, I could see some, like, real clever dude just, like, making his own like soul bond tokens or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I was
like,
I was thinking of just like different
DFF cards or whatever.
Yeah. I was thinking of like having that. I have 2 ideas. All right. One is they have like special coasters that like I put almost like an aura. Like I just put my blue coaster under the 2 guys that are soul bonded together, and then my red coasters under the other 2 guys that are soul bonded together. And my other idea is just haphazardly different colors and lengths of yarn.
Yeah.
Just over the whole battlefield. Like, all right, this guy's attached to this guy way over here, and I'll represent that with the green string. Then this guy is attached with this guy next to him, so that's pink, and just like make it as messy as possible, and then sneeze all over it and just ruin everything.
So in reading the thing, I just realized I cheated at the pre-release.
Why?
All right, so I had a soul bond just like it wasn't relevant, but I had a soul bond hexproof in play.
Okay.
And then. However, and then I played. So I have that 2 guys hexproof, like this, the 2/3, and then another creature that didn't have soul bond.
Okay.
And then I played a 1/4 that's like untap or whatever soul bond. And I'm just like, I'm gonna soul bond that to like the hexproof guy too.
You just like switched it over.
No, well, I didn't switch it over. I just like soul bonded. Like I had 2 soul bonds on the same.
Nice.
And,
nice.
Yeah, flavorfully, that's really dumb. You can't have more than 1 BFF.
It's not gay if it's a 3-way.
Right. Well, okay. Pretty sure it still is.
Oh, okay. That song lied to me then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a scumbag cheater. I'm telling everyone.
Yeah.
Restoration Angel. Here's one of the few cards that I actually did see before from the like Star City Facebook, whatever.
Previews.
It's
one of the biggest previews. This is probably like a lot of people's pick for best card in the set.
It's pretty bonkers, but it's like
I have a hard time seeing where it goes.
Yeah, it's so specific in its application.
Right. But then you have like something like, I don't know, like Delver of Secrets. Whereas, where does that card, like, where did that card go? What deck did you put that one in?
Right.
For, Like I felt that way about Geist of Saint Draft, where it was like awkward index.
Yeah. I mean, it is. You're not wrong.
So like I feel like at some point this card is so good, people are going to find a way to make this card insane.
Yeah. I mean, there's always these cards that do this, and it's like, I mean, at least for me, like just kind of sitting back and watching like the community reaction to cards and prediction for cards rather than kind of stepping up and making my own. Like I haven't done a proper article set review where I like really play test the cards and whatnot in 4 years, but
I've never done one.
yeah, it's. I mean, I think they're stupid, but I like sort of watching people react. And like, do you remember Sarah Avenger?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like people were like, it doesn't really have a home, but it's so good, people are gonna play it. Like, the rate is so good, and like it was at the same time as Remand, I guess. So it's like on 4 you can play this and Remand and blah blah, and like it just never got off the ground except for like that one Flores deck that wasn't even good.
Right, weird.
Yeah, funny that. So
interesting. Overhyped Flores deck. Would have never guessed.
Yeah, well, so like this, it kind of reminds me of that, right? Where it's like it could be the Geist of Saint Draft where it like fits in a bunch of decks in weird spots, or it could be the Sarah Avenger where it's like it's obviously a good rate and obviously like powerful enough, but does it do enough? Does it have a home? Blah blah blah.
I mean, this is the card that like is more efficient than cards like Thrun.
Yeah, well, Thrun is just awful.
It just gets beat by Thrun.
Is
like
this
straight up?
It's like, it's also weird, right? Because one of the bigger applications for it is like resetting your Snapcaster, right? You go like turn 1 Probe You, turn 2 Snapcaster, Phyrexian Flashback, and then like turn 4 you want to play this thing and like snap your thing, but you don't have your thing anymore because
right
you had to play the Snapcaster the first time, so you have to like Snapcaster a leak or something and then use this to get back a Ponder or something on 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna Snapcaster, you're probably gonna like it's just gonna be like a middle of the game type of
and it's gonna be a Ponder or a
Vapor
Snag, a Gut Shot, a Probe, like maybe a leak if you're lucky.
Yeah, it's gonna take some setup. It's not Restoration Angel is not an on curve card.
Yeah,
like you don't think of it like a card like Thrun is a blunt object. You play it as soon as you can.
It is what it is. It does what it does.
Yeah.
There's
no setup for Thrun really.
Yeah, this has a little more finesse to it.
Right. This is very much like even like a card like Huntmaster, which has a lot of play to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a card you just like run out there, get its value.
Right.
And then you make your decisions after that.
Well,
after you play it. Well, this card is a card that you make your decisions before you play it.
Right. Right. So let's talk about some of the potential applications. Run through them real quick, since I'm sure everyone's already done this. But
the on-curve play is Blade Splicer for sure.
Yep, Blade Splicer. You can Huntmaster it. One of the applications for like the 5 mana threaten thing in red.
Oh yeah, that card's sweet.
And like, I definitely think that
I could see a Cloud Shift like this goes well, and like Cloud if you want to make a deck around this card.
Yeah, I feel
like this is more like
comes into play abilities and whatnot.
There's a thing where you just like may just want a 3/4 Flash Flyer.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you're just a Drago deck for the most part.
And you can even like.
And this is the way you like just get some power into play.
You can even 5 for 5 like flash this in and then leak, like just untap a land.
It's creatures only.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Damn.
Right.
Because the red one.
Yeah. Other than that, I was like stuff like resetting your planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Often be good, but yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, because my big application for the threaten guy was untapping your birthing pod, which is.
Sure.
I was gonna try and suggest for this, but I guess that doesn't work.
Also noted, if we're gonna talk about the zealous conscript, the threaten guy, um, if you can, this is more on a cloud shift, but if you conscripts the guy, and then cloud shift the guy that you threaten, you get to keep the guy.
Awesome.
Cloud shift is worded differently than momentary blink.
It's under your control, not under its owner's control.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, if you got scroll up, exile creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control.
That is interesting.
So and this Restoration Angel is the same wording.
Mm-hmm.
So, and momentary blink was under its owner's control.
Right.
So you cannot threaten and then steal. So like, there's a legitimate threaten type. You know, if you want to play a bunch of threatens, whatever. Like with Restoration Angels, you're probably potting it out.
Yeah.
If you want to steal something permanently, you're not going to be like 5 mana conscripts. You know, 4 more mana for this guy.
Right.
Very often.
Yeah, you're potting one of them out.
Yeah. So I mean that's a thing, at least.
Yeah.
And like Restoration Angel is a very good backup pod. Whereas like if you draw pod, you could play a dedicated pod deck.
Because like you're,
and then when you get your pod thing going, you can ignore Restoration Angel.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, and I mean,
because
if you're potting through things, like they're gonna be stuff with comes into play abilities anyway, right? Like you're playing your Strangleroot guys that you can reset, or your Huntmasters and Solemns and whatnot.
Right, they're not necessarily stuff like they both play well in the same deck, as opposed to Restoration Angel and Birthing Pod don't really play well together.
But they play well with the same
but in the
cards.
Same deck. Yeah.
Yep. Well put. Riders of Gavin.
I think this card's going to be the sleeper card of the Pro Tour next week. And then nobody's ever going to play it again.
Huh.
So, if you know anything about Block Constructed...
I don't.
Okay. Humans is by far the best deck.
Yep.
Specifically red-white humans.
Okay.
So this card is just going to break the human mirror white. This is the reverent mantra.
Sure.
Of this block. You know, like at the Rebel Pro Tour, it was, hey, did you have reverent mantra in your deck? If so, you had a good deck. If not, you didn't.
Right.
That was basically the story of that Pro Tour.
Right.
And I feel like Riders of Gavin is going to be, if it's the way I think it is, basically.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, it's obviously a backbreaker there, and, like, not even bad other places.
It's some applications outside of the human mirror. But I feel like, yeah, this is... How many copies of this card are you willing to play?
That's interesting.
Basically.
All right.
Like, I could see, like, a zombie deck where this is randomly good, too.
Yeah.
Because it's just, like, all your creatures.
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, zombies was the deck I had in mind, besides humans, that this would be good against. I also thought of naming spirits against lingering souls, but I guess that's not a problem.
Nope. I mean, say they're a blue deck or whatever, you just don't want to get beat by, like, Dungeon Geists.
Yeah.
You're just like this guy, preemptively, and, like, that's an ability.
Yep.
Whatever. And then, like, so you just blank through any future dungeon. It's like a meddling mage of sorts.
Yeah.
For a lot of creatures.
Yeah, makes sense. Righteous.
I think this card's going to be very good in Block Construction.
I am very excited to either be like, you knew that because I talked to Adam, or be like, you idiot, you were so wrong. You embarrassed me in front of my stream.
One of the two?
Yeah, one of them's going to happen. I just
like,
hope...
I've obviously put no testing in.
Yeah, obviously, it's like pure speculation and...
Yeah. But, like, this is the type of card that's insane in Block Constructed.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree.
Assuming the format is balanced. Like, I used to love playing Block Constructed. I'm glad they bring it back. I wish they would bring it back for PTQs.
Yeah, Block's awesome.
Like, the two formats that would make me PTQ, like, on the regular, would be Block Constructed and teams.
Yeah.
Team whatever.
Yep, I agree. I'm the same way.
Like like in the day I had an insane rate. Like I probably played like one or two block tournaments a year. But like I would test for it, and then I would just win the first PTQ or top 8 the first Grand Prix or top 16 the first Grand Prix.
Right.
And I'd be like, all right, we're done playing that block.
Yep.
But I would have like an insane deck. I'd have all these like junky cards or whatever, and you just find out because like block formats are very narrow, and when you're looking for cards, you don't have that many places to look. So you can't just ignore cards like this that have a very, very, very important function.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Moving on to Righteous Blow. Yeah, sure. I mean, whatever.
The worst condemn ever.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
But when you need it, you need it.
Yep. Pretty much.
I see. I bet this one will be overdrafted.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't see having very many copies of this card, like, in my draft decks.
Yeah.
This card gets playable, but I'm not going to take it.
I wouldn't want more than one.
I'm not going to take it when other people are, so.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely don't want more than one, and I probably want whatever card somebody else would pass for it, so.
Yeah, exactly. Like the next card.
Seraph of Dawn. This thing's awesome, right?
Yeah, this card's insane.
It seems just great.
Welcome to the stopper of the set. Like, this is why the white decks are so slow.
This
and Angelic Wall are the two big reasons why it's impossible to kill a white deck.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to start off a draft with a Seraph of Dawn.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a format-defining creature.
Yeah, absolutely is.
And it's like, it almost has like ringings of Vampire Nighthawk, and it's common.
Very close to Vampire Nighthawk.
And it's common.
The thing about Vampire Nighthawk is not as good in other formats.
Well, yeah, obviously.
It was insane in Zendikar specifically.
Because it was super racy, nothing could kill a 3 toughness thing.
Right. The removal spells were Figure and Burst Lightning.
Yeah.
And it was a very fast format, and Lifelink was huge. So, like, that's why Nighthawk was so good.
But the thing, it definitely...
I mean, you can be a lot worse than Vampire Nighthawk and still be insane.
Yeah. And at common.
Yeah, right. So you're just going to play against lots of Vampire Nighthawks.
Right. That was kind of my point, was that it's close enough to Nighthawk that, like, it being at common is super interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely see it being pretty format defining.
Like, I don't know how Red Deck beats this card.
Yeah, ever.
Right.
Paladin. Sweet.
Have you seen this card?
I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, people are thinking that this is, like, much better than Mirror Crusader.
Well, that's just not true.
Yeah, like, you can Goldfish on turn 4 very easily with this card.
Yeah, people like playing against Goldfish, and it never seems to work out.
Yeah. But yeah, this card is definitely, like, if you're in the market for, like, I like playing decks where either every creature is very killable, but you have to kill it.
Or none of the creatures are killable.
None of the creatures are killable.
Yeah.
So, like, I see pairing this with, like, Hero Bladehold, because that card is the easiest to kill.
Yes.
And just a bunch of other cards that are... Like, I would never want to pair this with, like, say, a Loyal Cathar.
Yeah, that was the exact example I was going to use. Yep.
Right.
I agree completely.
So it's interesting, like, what kind of deck do you want? Do you want a Geist of Saint Trap deck? And, like, that deck wants Mirror Crusader.
Right.
Or do you want, like, a Champion of the Parish? And then that makes this card far more appealing.
Yep.
Which is why I hate all the decks with, like, Doom Traveler and Champion of the Parish in them.
Because it's just superidentityissue.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely.
And, like, I'm sure this, like, people are going to put this in, like, token decks, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
If you want this card, just get the hardest hitters you can and swing for the fences and hope they don't have removal or, like, Cloud Shifted or
Force
whatever.
them to have way too much removal than they could.
Yeah, and that's your game plan or whatever.
Yeah.
And if they have enough removal, you're dead.
Yep.
type of thing, but like make them have it first.
Yep, I agree. Spectral safeguards. Well, 2/5 is huge, but
yeah,
5 mana is a lot. Like
5 mana is a lot. Yeah,
that's
so,
like where you want to start playing angels, right? Like it's.
Yeah, most of the angels cost 6.
Sure.
But yeah, there's a couple of them that cost 5. But yeah, ideally you would like to have some sort of offensive creature. Like you don't want to be playing defense on 5.
Right.
But I've heard this card is very, very underrated.
Fair enough.
Despite not being a human or an angel.
Well, it's like it's all back to like extreme context in regards to like how racy a format is, or an archetype is, or a deck is, or a game state is. Like if a format's going to be really racy, then vigilance and lifelink are broken as shit. And if a format's going to be really grindy, then they're both completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's down to the details at that point, or down to the specifics, I should say.
Right, and I think basically other people's opinions of this card are much better than like my initial impressions. I think this card's pretty bad.
You mean they rate it much higher than you?
Yes.
Interesting.
But like, I would assume that people have played that are rating this card highly.
Yeah.
Was like, I played very little.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a card I'm gonna watch. Because it is definitely a card that is super contextual, and like when it's good, it's probably really good, and when it's bad, it's probably really bad. So it's going to be cool to see, like, as the format develops and like the sort of metagame of the draft format develops, to see when this guy is going and how playable he is.
This is the type of card I like. When you can get this guy like 11th and 12th, that's my idea of like a really good format.
Yeah.
Or when you can get cards of this quality, I guess, as opposed to like what you're probably gonna get 11th and 12th are stuff like Curse Breaks.
Yeah.
And bad spectral.
Favor of the Woods and
stuff like that. You're gonna get there's enough unplayables in this set.
1/1 for 1, 1 for 1.
Yeah, so you can't
can't really waste picks that
Can't
much.
really waste picks on cards like this that are situationally really strong.
Yeah.
I wish basically you could waste picks on this. Like you wouldn't have like you can have Spectral Gate Guards when it's good and not have it when it's bad.
Right. And I want all the tea in China. Terminus, this is one of the other miracle cards that was causing a storm.
Yeah, and I think this one justifies storm. I think this card is insane.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one's actually good because 6 mana for Final Judgment is actually like reasonable.
Right, exactly. You pay. Given the way that creatures are printed, they are there are a lot of very aggressively costed creatures that laugh at Day of Judgment.
Yeah.
And that Terminus gets. Like, Terminus will get everything.
Yeah. I like Terminus
a lot.
Except
for, Planeswalkers and stuff like that, but...
Well, like, it's like, not that bad of a rate at 6, and then if you miracle it, then it's such a boon. Like, you're so...
Oh, yeah.
You're profiting so much from it that it, like, warrants paying a little more. Like, it's like you're investing, right? Like, you're paying 5 mana for Hollow Burial, but you're, like, investing a mana every time for the one time that you miracle it, and then you're saving 5 mana, which is, like, saving 5 mana in one turn is way worth investing, 1 mana a turn over 10 turns, or 10 castings, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's an expected value thing, right? And the decks that would play this are the decks that can most take advantage of the extra mana.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, if you can miracle this and play a Planeswalker in the same turn, or just, like...
Yeah.
It's not gonna, like... Miracle 1 is so cheap.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even without the miracle cost, I think this card is as good or slightly better than Day of Judgment, even if with the extra 2 mana.
Yeah,
Because
I
when you're
don't
in
doubt
the
it.
market for a Wrath, you'll pay anything to get everything.
Yeah. Yeah, with all
Like
these,
it's really frustrating to like have a Day of Judgment and it not sweep.
yeah, Strangleroot Geists and Sun Titans that keep coming back and so forth.
And like end of turn activate my Moorland Haunt,
Yeah,
suit it up.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, like you said, 1 mana and then a Planeswalker, or like 1 mana and a Sweet Guy
Or
and
counterspell.
a Leak. Yeah, or 1 mana Snapcaster Leak.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is 6 mana isn't even out of the realm of Snapcaster Do It Again.
Right.
For like real like
It's
Cuneo.
ambitious, but like yeah. I mean I've Snapcastered Life Finale before.
Yeah, well,
It's really fun, by the way.
I mean, Cuneo's like pristine talisman tap or never tap out blue white with like 4 zeniths or whatever,
Yeah.
and like 4 wrath, 3 ratchet bomb or whatever. That deck would be happy to play this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's probably like one of the better places to start.
Yeah.
When you want this deck, because like there are a lot of cards that are really good if you never have to tap out.
Yep.
And this is absolutely one of them.
Yep.
And then sometimes you'll bite the bullet, tap all your mana on turn 6.
Yeah.
Get it, but like every time you miracle, it's just gonna be a huge beating.
Yep.
Like those games, like I'm pretty sure you win just a huge percentage of the games.
Where you miracle it and play Gideon or whatever.
Or no, not even anything. Like miracle and have other spells.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, even casting this for value and then playing Gideon is like probably game.
Right.
Against the decks that you would want to cast this against anyway.
Yeah, like whereas the other cards, like a lot of the other miracle cards, I feel like you lose a large percentage of games where you cast them at retail.
Yeah. This one, it's like a pretty even exchange, even at retail.
Yeah. You can still win the game by counting on this at retail.
Yep.
Whereas like, and then when you miracle it,
you're so popular.
Yeah. My grandma. When you miracle this, like it's just a huge beating.
Yep.
It's not coming back, like especially with like stuff like Cavern of Souls.
Oh yeah.
Being printed, like I feel like you go to negates as counter spells and just rely on stuff like this to kill all the creatures.
Yeah. Sounds reasonable.
This is probably my pick for the best card in the set, by the way.
I mean, I could see it.
Pick one. Yeah.
This card seems sweet.
Thrabian Valiant.
Yeah.
Magic creature.
Two drops are sweet. 1 toughness is not sweet. I don't know. It's a magic card.
Right. Yeah.
Voice of the Provinces.
It's a red card. It's not a white card.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. Voice of the Provinces is one of the common 6-drop angels.
Yeah.
Seems sweet. Like a 3/3 is.
Be prepared to play against this a lot.
Yeah, a 3/3 is definitely like manageable. Like it's the size that's the most manageable from white.
Yeah.
Like blue, it is awkward because blue has like it's 3/2. Well, it has a 2/2, right? That draws a card that then like really profitably exchanges here. And then it has like the 2/3 for 3 that can't block on the ground and can't fight these things. And then it has like a 2/1 for 3, and I don't know. What are the other flyers?
The 3/4, the
right, the 3/4, which just beats the fuck out of all these little angels.
Yeah, for 3 mana.
Well,
like be prepared to play against this guy a lot.
Yep.
That's
yeah, seems
this
sweet.
Is the common angel.
It's definitely a sweet like blink target too.
Common finisher or whatever. Like if you don't get a rare, you're gonna try and kill people with that card.
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's doable.
Yeah, it helps you stabilize it. Like if you
I defy death on this a lot.
defy death.
The zombify, the angel
Oh yeah, it just
reanimator
gets
card.
super grindy.
But I mean, like, that's gonna happen. Like, this card's very killable.
Yeah, and it's super grindy because it makes another guy.
Right.
Yeah, seems good.
And
And
it's also good to curve into with the 6 mana gain 2 life angel.
yeah,
So you just go that, and like that happens.
yep, for sure. And like if they're trying to kill this with a removal spell, it's like one of the better things that you can blink.
Right.
Like it's not something that you'd really want to go out of your way to blink straight up, but like if you're gonna blink it to like kill it, if you're gonna blink something to kill a 2/3, then like you might as well make a 1/1 also, you know?
Exactly.
Or
if they're gonna kill it, like it's nice to save. It's a good. It's not something you won't sorcery speed blink this guy.
right, but it's sweet that you get value when you save it.
Instant speed it, yeah.
Finally, our final card.
The only good combat trick.
Zealous Strike. Well, I like First Strike in combat tricks, just because they like act as tricks, you know, like anti combat tricks.
Right.
Like if somebody
like
moment of if somebody moment of heroisms, like if somebody sets up a trade in moment of heroisms and you skillful lunge, like they're just dead.
Right. Yeah, if you can trump somebody's trick. And Zealous Strike is absolutely that trick.
Yeah. Seems like it, and it's super sweet, and I don't know what else to say about it besides that, like, the combat tricks are gonna be, like, how good they are is gonna be way too, like, complex of a thing for me to speculate on now. Because, like, they're always about...
The sizes of creatures matter so much.
Exactly.
You really just have to play the set. You literally can't, like, map out the size, how, like... This is something I learned from playing Versus way back when. Like, Versus was mono combat,
and
all the spells were giant growths. And it was just really important to figure out, like, how big you can expect your average 5-drop to be.
Right.
And, like, what the range of 5-drops, like, it's a huge, like, some creatures or whatever, like, that are just, like, 1 toughness bigger, which it's just, like, the biggest deal.
Yeah.
And, like, in Magic, it's the same way, except for it matters more on the combat tricks than the creatures themselves.
Right.
Because, like, in Versus, the creatures were forced to interact. Whereas, like, in Magic, like, both players have to agree to attack and block.
Yeah, there's consent involved in creature combat.
Right. Well, in Versus it wasn't, so like that's why it mattered more.
Right.
But like in Magic, like the tricks, when usually both people will have to consent to creature combat. Like it's very difficult to get like all evasive creatures and removal spells.
Right.
At some point you're gonna have to get into combat and like get your hands dirty, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's when the size of the creatures matters for cards like Zealous Strike. Like, the card's probably going to be good, but it's just a matter of how good.
Right. And that's what it is, right? Like, looking at the set, you don't know if the Goblin Pikers are going to be running into 2/3s or if it's going to be, like, 0/4s and 3/2s. Like,
Exactly.
And it's so... and it's also so dependent on like so many factors because there's how the creatures match up in different matchups, and then you have to like calculate the potential ranges of your potential matchups. Like it's almost poker math at that point.
Yeah.
And then you also have to calculate the like opportunity cost that you're giving up for or giving up to how much instant speed removal there is.
Yeah.
And how many trump tricks there are, like the fog, or like Zealous Strike if you're trying to use, I don't know, fleeting distraction or something. You know, like,
right.
There's just so many factors to consider that I feel like I really have to draft like at least 10 times before I can even get a feel for it.
Right, like every set they have like some sort of giant growth,
Yeah.
and some of them like seem much better than others. Like
Right.
for example, like I remember like I thought Bark Shell Blessing was insane.
Which one's that?
From Shadowmoor, it's the green white giant growth with
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Conspire.
Conspire,
And
yeah.
that card's insane. Like, but I felt like Mutagenic Growth was a better card because it's free.
Right.
But that's not the case because like
The context is so different.
right, the +2/+2 is not the same in Scars block as it was in Shadowmoor block.
Right.
Like, because I never conspired the Bark Shell Blessing.
Right.
So it was just like a combat trick. But like paying 1 mana for 2/2 was a lot, in Shadowmoor block was a lot better than paying 0 mana for +2/+2 in Scars block.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons, and like that's where cards like this were like, how good is First Strike? Like if you're just gonna cast this on your Angelic Wall all the time or your Vampire Nighthawk, like this card's probably not what you want.
Right.
And this might be like one of those cards that like it's a red card. It's not a white card.
Right. I mean, that was one of the more interesting dynamics of Innistrad Limited. Was there was Ranger's Guile, Blessing, and what was the other one?
There's Moment of Heroism.
Or Moment of Heroism, Spidery Grasp.
Spidery Grasp.
And Ranger's Guile, and then Skillful Lunge and Wild Hunger.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like really, really like intricate how you managed all of your combat.
Right.
And like 3 mana, and then you also throw in like Rebuke and Bellringer, and you know, like there's so many things to like options.
I think that makes a good limited set.
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed that there's only one.
Yeah.
In white.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the more interesting things for me, for Innistrad, and that's how I kind of developed my affinity for anti-trick tricks, or like, you know, combat trick trumps.
Okay, yeah, because there were a lot of...
Yeah, like if they moment, you can lunge or grasp or rebuke or whatever. And then like what was I gonna say? Oh, the way that format developed was a lot of like weird metagaming, and like a lot of times I would like Ranger's Guile someone game 1 and then board it out for my you know, my Skillful Lunge or whatever that I left on the board. And
sure.
And that was such a cool dynamic that it's like kind of disappointing that they don't have that here. But
I have a feeling that this card's going to be really good. I'm trying to think of the instant speed removal.
Yeah, there's not much from what I've heard, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
There's also like the fact that even though you don't know what you know exactly what trick they would have if they had a trick in this, in versus Innistrad, which is like they probably
have a million.
Yeah, they probably have a trick, but I have no idea what it is. Now it's like they probably don't have a trick, but if they do, I know exactly what it is.
I mean, there is the 2 damage condemn.
Yeah, and there's a couple like green ones if they're green white, and there's always like, but it's just such a different way to approach combat that it's gonna take some serious like mental readjustment from the Innistrad mindset for me. But what I have noticed is that even besides instant speed removal, because instant speed removal is the ultimate ultimate anti trick.
Mm-hmm.
But besides instant speed removal, which there is a shortage of, there's also a ton of trump tricks, like the rare white fog, and then there's like the green fog that targets something.
Mm-hmm.
Like if prevent all damage except this one.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and so like there's Again, I have to play the format, but
I think this trumps a lot of tricks or whatever just via first strike.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's going to be cool to see how they match up. You know, like how all the tricks match up against each other, and how they match up against just having another creature. You know.
Right. Like sometimes, yeah, you could. All right, you got my guy. Next guy.
Right.
And then you're just as far. Like the appeal of tricks is that they're cheap to be able to tempo people with them.
Right.
For the most part, like if you can play this and another creature, you're in good shape.
Right.
But if you're just gonna play this, if you're gonna attack, play Zealous Strike and pass, you might as well play another creature.
Yeah, exactly.
Or even like trade off your creatures.
Yep. And with that, we conclude.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. White's probably, I've heard white is like the best color.
I've heard that it's really good, but really boring.
Right.
Quote Brad Nelson.
I mean, that's true. Like, the interesting cards are miracle cards, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the actual interesting card is the Restoration Angel.
Yeah.
For constructing.
For sure.
And then, yeah, it just has a bunch of, like, really efficient defensive cards for limited.
Yep. Alright. Well, thank you for coming on.
It was a pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.